Well, today I want to give you some tips to get you outdoor sketching and have a more enjoyable experience. One of the first things you need to think about is, of course, test running your kit. And right now we have a nice sunny day, but it is only 6 or 7 degrees out. Not such a good time to be out there sketching. So get your kit together and give it a test run inside. Keep your kit quite small. As you can see, all of my equipment fits in this one little container. This is the kind of sketchbook I like to use, mixed media books, and I actually find this to be kind of a nice size. It's 7 by 10. I find the 5 by 8 are nice as well. Anything smaller, it gets too small for your hand to work with. And so this I find is a nice size. If you want to know lots about my kit, I have a video that I put together for that, and you'll see the information of it below. In the meantime, first thing, test run your kit. So now take it out in your studio and use it. Make sure you can paint and you have everything with it. Nothing is more disappointing when you're sketching outdoors is to realize that you're missing something. The next thing you want to do is keep your palette simple. I find this is really enough to keep me going. I've got 2 reds, 2 yellows. I have an orange that I like. I have a mixed green, and the reason I use a mixed green is not because I just use it as a green, because no mixed green works. What I like to do is mix this green with one of these yellows or one of the reds or the blues, and that gives me lots of ideas for greens quickly. I have, of course, burnt sienna. Nobody can watercolor without burnt sienna, I don't think. This is a new one for me, and this is a cobalt teal blue. And I like this kind of aqua color, and it really gives you some nice greens that sparkle when you glaze it over things. Of course, I have ultramarine. I also have the Winsor Newton's blue as well. And but in here I added this a while ago and I kind of like it too, and it's a Payne's gray, and it just gives me a more instant black. I know you can mix your blacks, but it just gives me that dark, and sometimes I can use it to glaze over things. So I keep my palette quite simple with just a few colors that I can quickly mix here or mix on the paper. So that's another thing that'll get you going really well outdoors. You don't show up with a lot of equipment and a complicated palette. And again, if you test run it, that's when you'll really know how to mix those colors, and you'll be more efficient when you're out in the fields. Another thing that will help you keep going is working big, and it'll give you more success. So what you want to do is not do tiny things. Spread it out over the page. I often like to stretch it over into this side of the page. I like to do some writing. And so this kind of thing I find a lot more enjoyable, and it gives me a little bit of a spark later on. If you work too small, it just seems to be fiddly and you're not as happy. I'm not as happy with what I'm doing. And I'll give you some examples of this in a minute. As well as working big, zoom in. It's fine. Maybe this is my own personal preference. I like to zoom in on what's happening rather than doing the grand vista. I find that far more interesting to just do something that's happening right there and focus in on it. And that's when sometimes you find some of the most interesting shapes. And again, taking some of them over here, putting my little notes, things like that. Okay, well, let's have a look at what that really looks like, the zooming in part. I have some pictures there, which I am flashing for you right now, of a scene of rocks on the water and a little creek bed. I found this kind of interesting. I love that big fern-covered rock, mossy fern-colored rock there. And so basically I looked at different arrangements and how I could do that. My philosophy is, when I'm outdoor sketching, is first of all grab and do what I like and then spread from there. Okay, Let's have a look at this. So my plan was to have that mossy rock with all the fern on it. And so that was my first thing that I did, was just lightly sketch it with pencil where it's going to be. As you notice though, that's not the first thing I draw. Because when you work with pen and ink, you need to think about who's in front. So of course I had to draw what was in front of my mossy rock before I could actually get busy on the rock. And now, as you can see, I'm adding more of the detail. The fifth tip that I have that will really change your outdoor sketching experience is mixing your colors on your paper. Rather than mixing them on your tray, and let's face it, those trays are pretty darn small, mix your colors on the paper. And this can be done several different ways. One, you can just glaze over top. So once the first colors are dry, you can put another color on top of it, and that will change it nicely. Another way to do it is wait until they're just about dry. And then you take your new color and put it beside the old color and let the two of them touch, and they'll mingle and change, but you'll still have characteristics of both colors there on the outside edges. And the third way to mix is when it's really wet and just add your color on top of it. And the two of them will blend together. You can see that really nicely on that mossy rock that's behind my big rock in the right-hand corner. Here the colors mixed wet and outdoor sketching can be a lot of fun if you're prepared. I hope these tips help you get going. Wendy teaches outdoor sketching classes in the summer, and she teaches in her studio and online throughout the year. Wendy produces original work in pencil and in watercolor. She completes commission work, particularly pet portraits, and produces cards and prints from some of her work.